Before Bolivar, before San Martin, there was a man who rose up against the Spanish Empire and roared across the Andes, "The crown must fall." His name was José Gabriel Condorcanqui, but the world would remember him as Túpac Amaru II. For decades before the Great Rebellion, indigenous communities in Peru endured constant colonial pressure. But resistance wasn't always through arms. It lived in hidden ways, keeping the Quechua language alive, worshiping ancestral gods in secret and passing down forbidden legends. This cultural defiance was a daily act of rebellion. In the markets, in secret rituals in the mountains, in sacred patterns woven into fabrics, the Andes never stopped speaking their truth. José Gabriel Condorcanqui was born in 1738 in Surimana, a region of the Spanish Viceroyalty of Peru. A mestizo, he was a direct descendant of the last Inca ruler, Túpac Amaru I, who was executed by the Spanish in 1572. He inherited not just the name, but a legacy of resistance. The Viceroyalty of Peru was built to enrich a few and crush the many. The Mita system forced indigenous people into grueling labor in mines like Potosi, often dying without ever seeing their families again. Royal officials, or corregidors, abused their power, imposed cruel taxes, and committed acts of violence without consequence. This system didn't just steal wealth, it stole dignity. It was a world fueled by the suffering of native peoples. Native communities were crushed by systems of abuse, tributes they couldn't afford, forced labor in the deadly mines of Potosi, and the infamous reparto de mercancías, where they were forced to buy overpriced goods from colonial officials. José Gabriel pleaded for reform, but was ignored. So he chose the path of rebellion. José Gabriel Condorcanqui wasn't born a rebel. He was an educated cacique, a trader, a husband and father. But it was the constant injustice that transformed him. Every time he saw his people oppressed, every abuse of power, every unjust tax, something inside him ignited. Taking the name Túpac Amaru II wasn't just symbolic, it was a declaration. History wasn't over, and the spirit of the last Inca lived on. He would fight, not just for himself, but for everyone. On November 4th, 1780, José Gabriel captured and executed the corrupt Spanish official Antonio Arriaga. From that moment, he declared himself Túpac Amaru II, Inca King of Peru. And his call echoed across the Andes: no more oppression, no more slavery. After the first uprising, something changed in the spiritual landscape of the Andes. The mountains, sacred, alive, eternal, seemed to roar with the echo of rebellion. Communities that had endured the whip for generations began to see signs in the clouds, in the rivers, and in their dreams. The Apus, guardian spirits of the mountains, were no longer silent. Some claimed to hear their voices in the wind, calling for justice to be taken into their own hands. This was no longer just a human rebellion. It was the voice of the land itself, of a past still breathing beneath the stones, an ancient rage rising like thunder. Thousands rose to his side: Quechuas, Aymaras, poor farmers, even Criollos. They burned plantations, defeated colonial armies, and spread fear across the Spanish elite. It was the largest indigenous rebellion in South America before the Wars of Independence. The rebellion wasn't only forged by swords and fire. It was kept alive by whispered legends passed from elders to children, in huts lit by candlelight. The youth who joined Túpac Amaru II weren't merely angry peasants. They believed they were descendants of warriors blessed by the jaguar god. They painted their faces with ochre, chanted ancient prayers, and carried amulets made from bone and stone. Their eyes burned with a strange certainty that history, once broken, could be reborn with their blood. They weren't afraid to die because they thought death would make them eternal. But the empire struck back. Túpac Amaru, his wife Michaela Bastidas, a brilliant strategist, his children and allies, were captured. They were brutally tortured. On May 18, 1781, in Cusco's main square, the Spanish tried to tear Túpac Amaru apart using 4 horses, but his body resisted. They resorted to decapitation. Even after his execution, Túpac Amaru II would not die. In the Andean villages, people spoke of sightings. A man walking through the fog, wearing a red poncho and a fire in his eyes. They said he became a myth, then a spirit, then a symbol. He rose again in chants and uprisings, and silent glances exchanged between those who still remembered. His death was only the beginning of a longer struggle. A fire passed from hand to hand through centuries. As the rebellion began to crumble, Túpac Amaru II sent a final message to his people. It was not a surrender. It was a prophecy. He spoke of a future where the children of the Andes would rise again, where the chains would melt, and the sun would shine not for the conquerors but for those born from the sacred earth. That message was hidden in songs, etched into rocks, preserved in secret rituals. Many say that his words still echo in the wind, waiting for the right ears to listen. His body was dismembered and sent across the Andes as a warning, but his name became a legend. His spirit inspired generations to fight for liberation. Today, Túpac Amaru II stands as a symbol of resistance, indigenous pride, and the price of truth. Did you know about Túpac Amaru II's rebellion? Do you think his story deserves more recognition? Leave a comment below, and if you want more powerful untold stories from the Americas, subscribe to America 360, turn on notifications, and help us bring these voices back to life.